If it's a well-designed and well-produced shot, there will be a thing that's known as the clean plate, where you have a frame of the exact shot without anyone in there, and then you just use that to remove the person. But when it comes to adding someone in, firstly, hopefully the person shot it against a green screen, so it's easier.
Welcome to another episode Navigating the Rise. Today I have this really awesome Vicky Lau. She does so many different things, from special effects to like virtual reality to even programming, among other things. So I can't even explain everything to the full degree. So I will have Vicky Lau actually start describing herself, what she has been up to. I think you'll be really impressed.
Okay. So hi guys, my name is Vicky, as George has introduced me. I basically do visual effects and virtual reality for film, TV, and commercials. I've worked on a bunch of movies you may have probably seen, and I've also worked in the VR startup space, as well as been a startup founder myself. So yeah.
Sure. You mentioned some of the things that people would have heard about. What are some of those things?
Well, basically, for example, The Walking Dead.
Cool.
Guardians of the Galaxy, Aquaman, stuff like that.
Well, look at that. So you have all the behind the scenes details of all these different things. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, nowadays, what are you focusing on now?
Well, basically, being currently back in Singapore, I'm actually focusing more on kind of democratizing the insights I've gained from Hollywood and basically teaching people the visual effects things that I've learned from those actual movies themselves. So that's what I'm doing. So online is global. Anyone, anywhere can basically learn from me.
Oh, cool. So basically, you mentioned about some of the insight that you gained within Hollywood. So what are some of those insights that you speak of?
So obviously some of them is like proprietary information.
Of course. But general stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So the general stuff is that you definitely need to be able to work well with a team. That's for sure. The other things is you need to be able to keep up with the pace of the studio itself.
Interesting. When you say work well with the team, do you mean in terms of colloquial interaction? And when you say keep up the pace, what are like some of the typical crunch time, work hours, and schedule, that kind of things?
The team basically is because usually when you're assigned a shot, you won't be doing it by yourself. So you have to communicate with your team members and make sure that they know what you did, so that they're not going to redo that or kind of waste time on it, which ends up wasting, the studio's money. As for the other question, which I forgot what you were asking, but what was the other question?
Yeah. So you mentioned about you make sure you can, the hours or the schedule.
Yes. Okay. So basically, it requires it has long work hours. There was one time I was working 80 hours a week for multiple projects. So it requires, a lot of, you need to basically love your job if you really, want to be involved in this.
Got it. So how long does that last for? Is it like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, months,
Good question.
years?
Good question. It depends. So it depends on the studio you enter, and it depends on the project itself. If it's a TV show, it's usually faster. It's a faster pace, like per week kind of thing. If it's a movie, a feature film, it is longer. It could be months or even a year.
So that's like when you say 80 hours for a couple of weeks for TV shows, it's like months, 80 hours away from movies.
Yeah, it depends. Wow. There's overtime and stuff like that, but it's the 80 hours is just a rare occasion. Normally it's like 40 or 50 hours.
Okay. So,
yeah.
Got it. So when it comes to, so you mentioned about a shot. So because I'm not in Hollywood, I imagine some of the people who are listening might not be in Hollywood either. So I'm curious about what does that mean? I have an idea, but I want to make sure that I don't misinterpret it, what you mean by shot.
Okay, so for example, you go watch a movie and it's the opening scene. So a scene is made out of multiple shots. So you could have one shot that's a close-up of the actor and another shot that's a wide shot of let's say the forest. So those are two shots in one scene. So a shot, is a single camera capture, like right now, what we're doing basically.
Oh, yes. Okay. Wait.
Yeah.
So that means you have to do a lot of different things to the shot.
Yes.
So that means everything we see even though it's HD, etc., it still has a lot of visual effects and everything around.
Yeah.
So it's not
Yeah.
like
Yeah. It's
okay.
why. Yeah.
So they always look a lot better in I got it in the screen than in person. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
But imagine in the future if we have glasses that we're basically automatically touch up people's faces, when we
Yeah.
walk
That'll be pretty
around.
cool. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So one of my work mom, she says she hates the HDs and the clear
Mm-hmm.
pictures because she said the reason she hates it is because it shows all her imperfections too, like
Right. Yeah. That's
the
true.
pores, like the hair,
Yeah.
every little thing. So it's
Exactly.
like, so I'm curious now, has that changed the visual effects?
Yes, it makes it much more difficult to pull the effects off, because if it's like super, especially Ultra HD, right? Those 4K,
Yeah.
8Ks, they really focus on your pores. You can see all the pimples and the makeup. So you have to be extremely detailed with those. It makes the job much longer and harder for sure.
Oh yeah. So I mean, because similar with like, so I'm a big, you can say a video gamer. So when the gaming industry happens, where everything becomes better quality, better graphics, I notice a lot of the news. What I looked at is a lot of teams, like animation and the graphics teams, say they're spending a lot longer to actually make it perfect, even though like the story elements, everything's fine. I imagine with you're at Hollywood too, all the like actual the visual areas just takes a lot longer. Are there any
Yes.
ways I should reduce that, or does it just keep getting longer, 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 but the timeline doesn't change?
Well, if it's a game, it is important to have that reduced, because it slows the play, it makes the player's experience less like nice. You know what I mean? But when it comes to movies, because it is rendered completely, you don't have to interact with it. That's okay. It does take a longer toll on the renders, which is when a computer would have to print out those images. But other than that, like the viewer doesn't experience any lag or anything. So yeah, that's fine.
I see. I see. Cool. That's very interesting. I'm always surprised at stuff that you guys do, because I try to do it on my own. Maybe I don't have the training or whatever.
Yeah.
But it just seems like, how do you like make these things? How do you know what filters or what things to apply to actually make it, etc. Yeah. So that's all has been always been very new and interesting to me. So let's talk about a little bit more about, you mentioned about you're currently in Singapore and you're also
Yes.
thinking about helping people to learn these crafts. I'm curious about what that is like. What's that experience? What's going on with that?
So there is a stereotype, which is partially true, that people who work with computers, they tend to be really horrible teachers. Partially true. Partially
Oh,
true,
really?
except for me, because I do like speaking, so I guess you could say I dabble with both. I can work with computers and speak. Like right now, you can hear me, I sound eloquent, right? You understand exactly what I'm saying. So yeah, so when it comes to teaching, it's all about basically making sure that they understand the most simplest things first.
Okay. So you mentioned about computer people are very bad teachers. I'm interested in hearing more about that. This is one of the first times I heard about it, actually.
Think about it. Like usually the stereotype is that the person that works behind a computer screen tends to be a little introverted, not so social, right? Which is a little bit true, because again, I've worked in the industry myself. I've seen those people. They exist. They exist. So yeah, it really depends on the person and the person's personality as well as the skill set. So that's why I say it's partially true, because I've seen those and it's real.
I see. So
Yeah.
So that caused me a question. So for those people who are so that means they're good at what they do, but they're not good at teaching.
Yes, there is a different skill set required to communicate something such that people understand.
Got it. What about like the visual effects team in general? Are they more gravitated towards the introverted or the extroverted, or in the middle? How does that
Good
make up?
question. Good question. So I would say most of them are introverted. Most, not all. There are some that are mixed, and I've seen them. I've seen the variety. So most of them really are introverted, and I guess that's why they gravitate towards these jobs, because it allows them to not be so communicative with a lot of people. They just need to talk to their team members, but they don't really need to talk with a lot of people.
Interesting. Would you say that creatives in general, just in general, are they more introvert or extrovert, or depends on the areas? Because I have there's like the weird conundrum, because I can see on one hand some creatives like to be in their own little world and dreaming of imagining things, and there are other creatives that are just like so flamboyant, they're like all over the place, like their ideas it's just all over the place, right? So it's like, so I'm curious about like in your field, in that area, the creatives part, are they like, I'm just for me, I don't know. I'm not in the industry. I'm not even involved in that field for that long, and my data set are purely anecdotal. So I'm curious about from your perspective.
Well, that's an excellent question. I like those kind of questions. Like it goes deeper beyond just about the industry. In my field, yes, but in other fields, probably there'll be a mix. I've seen, the extroverted ones, but in my field, based on the 7 years I've worked in the industry, yes, it's definitely more introverted.
Because like there's that stereotype that's been flowing around, I believe, that people who are very creative are very tend to do different things, and they're like always dreaming up things and trying to like showcase it to the world, and you kind of have like a dreamer, that kind of thing. So they all kind of portray that, at least from my perspective, that they're a lot more extroverted. And now with go on.
Yeah, I think it depends on the field too. So you're definitely correct there as well.
So anything that involves with dealing with computers or technologies are introvert, whether they are creatives or non-creatives. Got it.
Tend to be. Not 100%.
Of course.
Tend to be, right? So
yeah. Interesting. Now I'm curious about how are those people who are not able cope with a group who tend to be introverted. Because for them, they get energy from interacting with people. Introverts are, hey, leave me alone. I'm tired. Just tell me the basic necessary things you need me to do, and I'll just do it. So I'm curious about how that dynamic actually works out.
Well, I mean, so far I can mainly speak from my experience, but I would probably say that the extrovert would just go find somehow some other extroverts to work with, because both of them feed from each other, right? So they probably, realize eventually that they're kind of tiring out the introvert. So they'll go flock around to somebody else that's more similar to them, I'm guessing. So, yeah.
So when you say you're guessing, so I'm assuming that you are not the extrovert type, you're the introvert type.
Well, I know I'm an introvert, so yes.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah.
So how do you know how are you so sure? Because I'm always confused whether I'm introvert or extrovert.
Well, because when I was younger too, I've always been alone, and I preferred being alone. And at the same time, I never really liked hanging around people, which again explains why I'm also in this field partially. Yes.
So for me, I have this weird conundrum. So what happened is that, so I used to be a software developer, right? And then I was bored because I couldn't. I look forward to meetings.
That's cool.
So I can like talk to people, right? And then now where I'm more in the people-driven role at the product management. I think in Hollywood, it's like more like a producer, that type of role. Yeah. Now it's like, oh my God, I want time to be alone. So it's like the different attributes. I'm not sure. Hey, am I introvert or extrovert? I know when I was
saying there is a thing called ambivert. So you can convert based on situations where sometimes you're an introvert, sometimes you're an extrovert. So there you go.
Ambivert. Well, I didn't know that existed. I know there's ambidextrous. I know there's ambivert.
Well, now you know that there's an ambivert. So yeah.
Cool. So what are some of the, you can say, the challenges and the easiness? So basically, what are some challenges that within the industry that you faced, and then as well as what are some of the things you thought was difficult, but after getting to the industry, you realize it's not that hard at all?
Good question. Challenges I faced. Initially, it's mainly having people take me seriously. Number one, I am from another country. That's why. That's part of the reason. But after a while, when you have a really strong portfolio, the work speaks for itself, and the work kind of sells you. So, yeah.
What about the other part where basically things you thought would be really difficult, but then realize after you get into the industry, realize it's not that hard at all?
I don't think I had that thought. Not that I can remember, because when I got in, I did not have any expectations. So that's another key for me. At least I didn't have any preconceived notion of something that could be difficult. I didn't see it that way.
Then let's take it a different way. What are some of the things that are are not challenging at all?
Things that are not challenging, literally. Probably when it comes to shots involving removing people from the shot. So, for example, a crew member is in the shot and not supposed to be there. Remove it. Yeah, that's not challenging at all. So that's simple stuff. Removing an earring on a baby, simple stuff.
So how about adding people? Is that simple too?
No, that would be challenging. There you
go. So tell me more about that. Why is removing things easier than adding people?
Well, actually, it really depends on the shot. So if it's a well-designed and well-produced shot, there will be a thing that's known as the clean plate, where you have a frame of the exact shot without anyone in there, and then you just use that to remove the person. But when it comes to adding someone in, firstly, hopefully the person shot it against a green screen, so it's easier. And number two, you have to match the lighting and the shadows and all that stuff, all that fancy visual effects stuff.
Oh, the shadows.
That's why, yes, it's more difficult. The interaction, the eye line, all that stuff.
Wow, I never thought about that. I just thought like it'll be easier because with removing people, you have to make sure the background that's covered has to generate a new background behind it. But I thought people just take that person out and then put that person in there. And I didn't realize you got to match the shadows, the environment. Yeah. Wow, that's some hard stuff. When it comes in Singapore now, what are you still working on the visual effects? You mentioned about teaching people. Is that what you do mostly now, or also still working on some visual effects or other kind of projects that you're working on besides the visual effects?
Well, I also do virtual reality right now. Cool. Obviously, because Hollywood movies are so tight on the IP, they don't allow remote work. So I'm mainly focusing on the teaching right now when I'm in Singapore. But of course, if you want to work on those kind of high-level films, you have to be at the studio. But everything's all shut down right now, so no one's working.
Got it. What about so virtual reality? Tell me more about virtual reality.
VR, let's see. I am involved in it in the VR film sense, as well as the gaming side of things and the experiential side. So I've actually had a VR startup, and we did launch a VR game, but that's really about the extent of my, in terms of leading a project in VR, that's what I did.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, right now, I feel like it could be an optimal time, especially with the COVID-19. A lot of people are staying indoors. Even the countries that are opening up, there's still people still go home very early, right? Because afraid of they can come multiple ways that's coming back. So then so it feels like VR is right now it could be one of the best times to actually potentially take off, because everyone is stuck indoor. Not everyone, but for the most part, most people want to be indoors.
That's true. Although, to play devil's advocate for fun, they need to have the income to get the VR headsets if they want to, let's say. And usually the price point, people are still complaining about the price point. If I'm not mistaken, if they are staying home, some of them maybe have no jobs right now, so the income could be impacted. So it's a mixed, I would say. It's a good time, but also it's a bad time. So it's a mixture of both.
So that got me interested into the current economy in Singapore too. So in a lot of Western states, a lot of governments are handing out free money. For example, London, I think they were giving people 80% of their salaries or something like that. And in Canada, it's $2,000 a month until during the COVID-19 is completely over. I'm curious about in Singapore, how is that? How is the government subsidizing that in any way or not?
Yes, they did recently give out a cash handout. They also divided it based on age group. So if you're a senior citizen, you'll get more. If you earn less, you'll get more. They also have a special package for self-employed people. And they also have a package for businesses in order to keep them paying their employees that are at home right now. So it's a mixture it's similar, but of course it's like set to what the economy is in Singapore and is in Singapore dollars. So yes, yeah.
And one thing I also heard that people in Asian countries tend to save more. It's not unheard of to hear people save up to like 30, 40, 50% of their income, right? Whereas in the US, for example, where I live, people save like maybe 5% or something like that. Or 10%. They recommend 10% and that's a stretch for a lot of people here. So I'm curious about that. Is that true? Where like Singapore, the savings rate is a lot higher, so people are not, you can say, as feeling as bad as like other counterparts.
Yeah, I think we can both relate. We're definitely not from the US in that sense, but yes, it is a very Asian cultural thing about saving. It's all about saving, you know. So I agree. It is same here. Yeah.
When you say same, what does that
same
mean?
As in like people save more than usually like the recommendation sometimes. So yeah.
That's good. I think it could be a cultural background too.
Yeah.
I think because to always plan for a rainy day, where I think here in the US, people are a lot more optimistic. Things will always turn out fine. So they figure they can always make more money later. Whereas in Asian country, oh sure, when bad things happen, I need to prepare for the bad things, right?
Yeah,
so in the US, it's like, oh, it'll be fine. We'll make more money later. We'll work it out when it happens. Right? That kind of scenarios, I would say. Yeah. Cool. So in terms of the other areas, I'm curious about your so when it comes to teaching, what kind of area do you focus on? Is there specific topics?
So basically visual effects and VR, same thing that I do. So like, you know, how to essentially make a 3D model, integrate it into a shot, as well as virtual reality involving the visual effects side of things. So filmmaking as well, how to create your own short films. So it's mainly focusing on the entertainment industry.
Getting towards the end of the episode, so I'm trying to summarize everything we talked about at the moment. So we talked about your background when it comes to VR, the visual effects, how you work with The Walking Dead, and Aquaman. Actually, would love to hear a little bit more about that. How is it working with the top popular shows? And then how you mentioned about we talk about what the shot means. Is that basically a close up or a shot of the forest? And then some of the working environment in that industry can be long, can be sudden, and people are basically converting different teams very quickly. And the hour can be up to 80 hours a week. And then we also mentioned about how the visuals are harder if you try to insert people in than take people out, because that makes sure all the shadowing, all the effects surrounding this, so they flow naturally into the settings, as opposed to just put them in and do nothing with it, right? Which I thought. And then so we talk also a little bit about virtual reality and how one of the biggest issues right now is the price point. People are having a hard time purchasing that to actually become consumerized. But hopefully in the future it will change to be more affordable. And that's basically my quick takeaway summaries. Just curious, is there anything that I missed that you want to add?
No, but if anyone is interested in learning from a pro, feel free to find me online.
Sure. How can people reach you online?
Basically, you can find me on www.Lau, which is my last name and first name.com. Or actually, you can really just Google me and you can find me on Google. That probably is easier. Yeah. Got it.
And then, so from that, I'm also curious. So before we end, I did want to ask you, so what's it like to work with the popular shows?
It's just a project, so I treat it professionally. Yes, some people will get starstruck. You know, you do sometimes get to work closely with the director of the movie, but it's really about maintaining the professionalism to it.
Thank you so much, Vicky.
All right, thank you.